The Predator's challenge. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species and deadly predators. But none were as feared as Goroth. His name alone struck terror into the hearts of entire civilizations. His strength was unmatched, his speed was lethal, and his reputation was one of unstoppable destruction. No one had ever defeated him. He was the galaxy's deadliest predator, and all species knew it, from the smallest creature to the greatest. Empire, every being in the universe trembled at the mere thought of Goroth. Yet, as the stars shone brightly above the peaceful planet of Earth, a new figure appeared. Marcus Cole, a human officer from the Galactic Council's peacekeeping force. Unassuming and ordinary, Marcus had no idea that he was about to face the galaxy's greatest threat. Marcus was sent to a small, remote outpost on the edge of the galaxy to negotiate with several alien factions. These factions had been in conflict for years, and his mission was simple: keep the peace. But things never went according to plan. While Marcus sat in the outpost, studying diplomatic reports and preparing for his next meeting, an alert blared across the system. The peaceful hum of the station's quiet halls turned into chaos. The message came through in an instant. Goroth was on his way. Panic spread like wildfire. The station commanders, trembling in fear, turned to Marcus. They had heard the stories of Garatha, untouchable predator who had wiped out entire fleets without breaking a sweat. And now he was heading straight for them. "Do you know who he is?" one of the commanders asked, his voice shaking. Marcus didn't answer at first. He had heard of Goroth. Everyone had. But what could one human do against such a monster? "Do we have a plan?" Marcus finally asked, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We don't have a choice," the commander said. "We have no weapons strong enough. We can only pray he doesn't destroy us all." Marcus's eyes narrowed. He had been trained in diplomacy, not combat, but he had always believed there was more to a fight than just weapons. The universe might fear Goroth, but Marcus wasn't about to back down without trying. "Then I'll face him," Marcus said. The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at him, disbelief written across their faces. "You'll face him," the commander repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Marcus replied. "He may be the galaxy's deadliest predator, but I'll make him see that humans don't bow to fear. We stand and fight." With that, Marcus left the command center. His heart raced as he walked down the corridors of the outpost, heading toward the docking bay. He didn't know what he was going to do once he faced Goroth, but he was determined to try. When Marcus reached the docking bay, he saw a massive figure in the distance. The ground trembled as Goroth's enormous ship descended, landing with a force that shook the station's walls. The Predator's silhouette stood out against the bright light of his ship's entrance. He was tall, impossibly tall, with muscles that rippled beneath his armor. His face was covered by a helmet, but his eyes, glowing with a fierce orange light, were visible, burning with the intensity of a predator on the hunt. Marcus stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. He could feel the sweat on his brow, but he refused to turn back. Goroth's voice boomed through the silence. "Human, I have come for you." Marcus took a deep breath and stood tall. "I'm not afraid of you." For a moment, there was only silence between them. Goroth tilted his head slightly, studying Marcus. "You are different," he said, his voice low and deep. "I have seen many species fall before me, but none have dared to speak to me this way." Marcus didn't flinch. He held Goroth's gaze, refusing to show fear. "I may be just one, human But that doesn't mean I'll bow to anyone, especially not to someone who thrives on fear. The two stood there for a moment, the tension thick in the air. Gorath seemed to study Marcus as if trying to figure out what made him so different. Then, slowly, the predator took a step forward. I have killed hundreds of beings like you, Gorath said, his voice almost a whisper. You will die as they did. Marcus didn't back down. Maybe, but maybe not. I'm not here to fight you with weapons. I'm here to show you that not all battles are won with strength. The predator's eyes glowed brighter. He took another step forward, towering over Marcus. What do you offer that I do not already have? Gorath asked. Marcus looked up at him, feeling the weight of the moment. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have the advantage in size or power. But what he had was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to think, to reason, and to understand. I offer you a choice, Marcus said. You don't have to fight. You don't have to kill. Gorath paused, his eyes narrowing. A choice. The words hung in the air. You think you can change me? I think I can make you question everything you've ever known, Marcus replied. For the first time, the galaxy's most deadly predator seemed to hesitate. Marcus had said something that made him think. But was it enough to stop Gorath from attacking? The question hung between them, suspended in the tension of the moment. The past that haunts the air was still. Gorath's glowing eyes stared into Marcus's calm, steady gaze. For a moment, neither of them moved. Soldiers and officers watched from behind barriers, too afraid to breathe. Any wrong move, any sudden noise, and the predator might strike. But Gorath didn't move. Instead, he did something no one expected. He sat down. The ground beneath him shook slightly as he folded his legs and lowered his huge frame onto the docking bay floor. His armor clicked softly as he rested his massive arms on his knees. He looked at Marcus like a creature not just curious but uncertain. You remind me of someone, Gorath said slowly, voice low and distant. Marcus blinked. Who? The predator's eyes dimmed slightly, no longer burning with the same fury. A human, long ago. The only one I could never kill. Gasps spread through the crowd. You fought a human before? Marcus asked. I didn't just fight him, Gorath said. I lost to him. The silence grew heavier. It was many years ago, Gorath continued, voice like thunder softened by memory. The galaxy was burning. I was a weapon, a tool of death, bred for war, used by the Dravik Empire to crush their enemies. I destroyed worlds without question. He paused. Until I met him, your ancestor. Marcus stiffened. You knew someone from my family. Yes, Gorath said. He was called Commander Elias Cole. He didn't fight with blades or strength. He fought with words. He saw through me. He saw pain. Marcus listened closely, his heart pounding. I was sent to kill him, Gorath said. But instead, I surrendered. The soldiers behind Marcus exchanged stunned glances. A creature like Gorath surrendering. It sounded impossible. Why? Marcus asked. Because he did not treat me like a monster, Gorath replied. He treated me like something more, like someone who could choose. Gorath stood slowly, towering over Marcus once again, but his stance was not aggressive. He looked down at the young officer with something almost like respect. I bowed to him, not because I was defeated, he said, but because he gave me something I had never been given. Freedom. Marcus's throat went dry. He had heard of Elias Cole, a military leader from Earth's past, But the records were limited. No one knew he had once faced the galaxy's most feared killer. I was lost, Gorath continued. For decades, I wandered the galaxy, trying to understand myself. But when Elias died, I lost my purpose. The Predator's voice dropped to a whisper, until now. Marcus took a step forward. You think I can give you that purpose again? I don't know, Gorath replied. But I came here, because I hoped. It was a strange moment, man and beast, predator and prey, standing together not in violence, but in memory. And yet, behind that calm, there was something darker. I must warn you, Gorath added. The ones who made me, the Dravik Empire. They are watching. They know I've returned, and they fear what I might become, with a human beside me. Marcus's stomach turned cold. You mean they'll come for us? Gorath nodded. They already are. Suddenly, alarms blared across the outpost. Red lights flashed. The station's defense systems activated. A voice came over the speakers. Unknown warships approaching. Dravak's signature confirmed. Estimated arrival for minutes. Marcus turned toward the control room. They're here. The soldiers rushed to battle stations. Commanders shouted orders. Panic was spreading. But Gorath remained still. They're not here for the station, he said. They're here for me. And you. Marcus felt the weight of it all crashing down. He was just a peace officer, not a warrior, not a commander like his ancestor. And yet, somehow, he had become the center of a galactic storm. You can run, Gorath said, or you can face them with me. Marcus stared at him. No, he replied, voice firm. I don't run. The Predator gave a small nod. Then prepare yourself. They will test your strength. Not your body, your mind, your loyalty, your choices. As the Dravok ships descended into the sky above the station, Marcus and Gorath stood side by side. Asterisk, one human, one monster, both haunted by the past, both preparing for a future no one could predict. And somewhere, deep in the galaxy, the rulers of the Dravik Empire watched. They had sent their greatest weapon to destroy Earth. Long ago now, they feared what that weapon might become, ... if he chose to protect it instead. The hidden connection, the sky above the station, rumbled as Dravik warships descended from the black expanse of space. They were monstrous black ships that seemed to swallow the stars around them, their engines humming with destructive energy. The sound of their approach sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. Prepare yourselves. A command officer shouted, rallying the troops. They're here. But Marcus stood still, his thoughts racing. Gorath, standing beside him, remained eerily calm, as if this was just another battle. But to Marcus, this was unlike anything he had ever faced. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a leader of armies. Yet here he stood, at the center of the universe's most dangerous conflict. What now? Marcus asked, looking up at the looming threat above them. They will come in waves, Gorath said, his voice low but steady. They have learned how to fight me, how to defeat me. But they don't know you. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? They will try to break you, human, Gorath said. They will test your resolve, your loyalty. You must not falter. Marcus looked at the Predator, the fearsome creature who had bowed to his ancestors so long ago, who had killed and destroyed countless civilizations. Now he was standing by his side. But there was a deeper connection, something Marcus couldn't explain. What did Gorath see in him? Why had he chosen to protect Earth? Before Marcus could ask another question, the Dravic fleet opened fire. A barrage of missiles rained down on the station, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The world around them exploded into chaos as the station's defense shields flared to life, struggling to hold against the overwhelming force. "Get to the command center," shouted the commander. "We need to hold the line." Marcus's heart raced. He had to move, had to do something. The people were depending on him, on humanity. His ancestors' legacy wasn't just about strength or battle, it was about leadership. It was about making a choice. "We fight," Marcus said firmly, turning to Goroth. "We fight back." The Predator gave a rare nod. "Then, fight with me." The two of them rushed toward the command center, where the best minds of Earth's military were already strategizing their next move. The Dravok ships were closing in, and Earth's defense was stretched thin. But Gorath's presence gave them hope. If the deadliest predator in the galaxy had chosen to stand with them, surely they could prevail. Inside the command center, Marcus took his place at the strategy table. Holograms of the enemy ships flickered above, showing their positions and movements. The team had only moments to decide how to respond. "They're coming in fast," General Monroe said, his eyes glued to the map. "Our defenses won't last long without support." Marcus's mind was racing, his thoughts on the moment Goroth had spoken about. His ancestor had fought not just with strength, but with intelligence. Could he do the same? "What if we use their momentum against them?" Marcus said suddenly. The room fell silent as everyone turned to him. "Explain," General Monroe ordered, his voice sharp. "We know they're coming at us full force," Marcus said, "but they'll expect us to defend in the same way we always have on the ground, with traditional weaponry. What if we trick them into thinking we're more vulnerable than we are?" The command room fell quiet as Marcus's plan began to form. They could trick the Dravok into attacking the wrong targets, leading them into traps where Earth's hidden weapons, reverse-engineered alien tech, would destroy them. Goroth, standing at the back of the room, nodded. "The human is right. They rely on brute force. Let them think we are weak." Marcus looked at Goroth. "Then we used their strength as our weakness." The final preparations were made. Earth's fleet would fake a retreat, drawing the Dravok forces toward the planet's atmosphere. They would have one chance, one shot to take down the Dravok flagship. The moment they did, the rest of their fleet would scatter. As the plan took shape, Marcus felt something inside him shift. He wasn't just following orders, now he was making them. He wasn't just standing at the back of the room anymore. He was taking charge. The legacy of his ancestor wasn't just about fighting. It was about leading when the odds were impossible, and finding the strength to make the hard choices. The first wave of Dravok ships arrived in Earth's orbit. Their massive warships, blocking out the stars. The battle began. Gorath's massive form stood beside Marcus, watching the chaos unfold. His eyes, once filled with destruction, now held something different, purpose. The Predator had seen the galaxy's might, but now he was fighting for something more. He was fighting for humanity. "Do you see it?" Gorath asked, his voice calm. "This is why I bowed to your ancestor, the humans. They are not like other species. They have something greater than power. They have resolve." Marcus looked at Goroth, feeling a sense of pride. "And I'll fight for that resolve." The Dravok ships approached, their weapons charging for the final strike. Marcus made a silent promise. "If we win this, we win the galaxy." The moment the Dravok flagship came into range, Earth's fleet launched their trap. The flagship was destroyed in one swift blow, its shields useless against Earth's hidden weaponry. The Dravik fleet scattered in confusion, and Earth's forces emerged victorious. Asterisk, the test of strength, the battle had ended, but the war was far from over. Earth had faced down the Dravik Empire and emerged victorious. But Marcus knew that the victory was only a small victory in a much larger struggle. The galaxy was watching, and the enemies of humanity were not going to let them rise without challenging their place in the universe. Inside the Terran Command Center, Marcus stood at the front of the war room, staring out at the holographic map. The blue lights of the command center flickered, reflecting the deep exhaustion in his eyes. The Dravak fleet had been decimated, but now new forces were moving in. The Zelthor Dominion, the galaxy's most advanced and intelligent species, had taken notice of humanity's rise. And they were coming. "You're not ready for them," General Monroe said, looking grim. "We may have crushed the Dravak, but the XEL-TAR... They are different. Their minds are as deadly as their weapons." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had already faced a threat far beyond his imagination. But this was different. The Zelthor weren't just physically imposing. They were masters of psychological warfare. Their ability to manipulate minds, to twist emotions and perceptions, was legendary. And they were coming for Earth, ready to bring the war to a new level. "That's why we need Goroth," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the doubt creeping in. He turned to the towering figure of the galaxy's deadliest predator, who stood at the back of the room, silently observing. Goroth's glowing orange eyes met his. "You may have won the last battle, human. But the Zelthor will not fall so easily. They fight with the mind. They do not fear strength." "I don't fear them," Marcus replied, his voice firm. "I'll face them with everything I have." Goroth stepped forward, the ground beneath him seeming to shift with his every movement. "Strength is not only physical," he said quietly. "You must learn to control your mind as much as you control your body. The Zelthor will test you, Marcus. They will find your weaknesses." Marcus swallowed hard. He had spent his life learning how to fight with his fists, his tactics, his words, but this was different. The enemy he was about to face wouldn't be defeated through physical strength alone. They would find his fears, his doubts, and exploit them. The first encounter, the Zelthar fleet, arrived in Earth's orbit a week later. Their ships were sleek, dark, and almost invisible against the backdrop of the stars. Unlike the brute force, the Zelthor used strategy and mind games, manipulating the battlefield in ways humanity had never encountered. A message from the Zelthor Council came through. The screen flickered, revealing a strange figure, tall, thin being with translucent skin and eyes that seemed to glow from within. It spoke in a calm, measured voice that sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. "Human, we are the Zelthor Dominion. You have proved yourself worthy of attention, but you will never understand the true cost of power until you are broken. Your victory over the Dravik was nothing more than a fluke. We offer you this choice. Surrender now, or we will make you. Wish you had." Marcus felt his grip tighten on the command console. "We don't surrender," he said, his voice sharp and full of defiance. Goroth's voice rumbled from behind him. "They don't know humanity. Not yet." The Zelthor's response was swift, but it wasn't an attack, it was a test. The fleet's ships began emitting strange, mesmerizing signals that scrambled the human fleet's communication systems, creating confusion and chaos. Suddenly, entire sections of Earth's ships were cut off from each other. Systems malfunctioned. Panic spread through the ranks, and then the real test began. The mind games in the darkened command room. Marcus felt his body grow cold. The lights dimmed, and the walls seemed to close in around him. The Zelthor were not fighting with weapons. They were fighting with fear. Suddenly, his mind was assaulted by vivid, terrifying images. He saw his family, his mother and father, trapped in a burning building. He could hear their cries for help. His heart pounded as he tried to reach them, but the building crumbled before his eyes. The fear was so real, so sharp, that it almost felt like he was living it. Marcus. Gorath's voice broke through the fog in his mind. Focus. They are attacking your mind. You must resist. Marcus struggled to regain control of his thoughts. This wasn't real. The Zelthor were manipulating his emotions. They were trying to break him, to turn his greatest fears into his reality. But Marcus had been trained for this moment. He had learned to keep calm under pressure. Through sheer force of will, Marcus shut out the images. Slowly, his breath steadied. He could feel the presence of the Zelthor in his mind, but he refused to let them control him. He focused on Gorath's words. You are stronger than this, human. The mind is a battlefield of its own, Gorath said. You must take control. The Zelthar know the body can be broken, but they do not understand that the spirit is unshakable. With Gorath's guidance, Marcus cleared his mind, pushing aside the fear, the doubt, the panic. He was not broken. He was not weak. He was human. The shift in power. Marcus took a deep breath and activated the emergency communications system. Listen to me, he said, his voice steady. We've faced monsters, we've fought for our lives, and we've made it this far. But now, we fight with more than just our bodies. We fight with our minds. Together, the words had the desired effect. Humanity's fleet, scattered by the Zelthor's mental assault, began to regroup. Crew members fought back against the fear, using Marcus's strength as a beacon to lead them. The Zelthor had underestimated humanity's power. They had believed that fear could break them, but they had forgotten the one thing that made humanity unique: the unbreakable will to stand up, even when all seemed lost. Gorath, watching from the back of the command room, allowed himself a small nod of approval. You have passed the first test. But the battle was far from over. The universe shakes. The galaxy had never been this quiet, or this afraid. Humanity's victory over the Dravik Empire and the Zelthor had shaken the foundations of the galaxy. Every empire that once held the reins of power now saw Earth as a threat, but they also saw something else: hope. Hope that one species could stand against the darkness and not just survive, but thrive. However, with that hope came fear so intense it drove the galaxy's greatest powers to make a choice. They couldn't allow humanity to rise. They couldn't let Earth continue to challenge the status quo. The Galactic Council, once a governing body of multiple powerful species, now faced its greatest dilemma. Should they join forces to crush humanity once and for all, or should they attempt to negotiate with the rising force that was quickly reshaping the universe? Behind closed doors, the answer was clear. The galaxy's most influential empires, the Zarkar Empire, the Thraxi Coalition, and the Van Dominion, had quietly agreed. It was time to stop humanity. A galaxial alliance against Earth. The Zarkar were swift, their ships cutting through space like shadows. Their fleet had been humbled by humanity once, but they had regrouped, rebuilt, and now they were stronger, ready to take on the species that had dared to fight back. the Thraxi, known for their brutal tactics and overwhelming military strength, had been the first to back the Dravic Empire. The galaxy knew their might, but they had never feared anyone until now. The Varn Dominion, a technologically advanced species, believed that Earth's rise threatened the very fabric of the galaxy's political structure. They couldn't allow a species like humanity to rewrite the laws of the universe. Humanity had become a wild card, a force they couldn't control, and so they too joined the alliance against Earth. Together, these three galactic powers forged an alliance that would unite the entire galaxy in an attempt to wipe out humanity before it could rise to its full potential. The call to arms on Earth. The news came as a shock. The Terran Command Center buzzed with frantic activity as reports came in from deep space. The Dravic, the Zelthor, the Thraxi, and the Zarkar were uniting for a final assault. It wasn't just about Earth anymore. It was about the future of the galaxy. Lena West stood in front of the war map, eyes scanning the galaxy. She was no longer the scientist who had simply studied the stars. She was now the strategist, the leader, the commander who had to guide Earth through the greatest war it had ever faced. "We've made enemies," General Monroe said, his voice grim. "Enemies who won't stop until we're erased from existence. But we've also made something. Stronger allies." Lena looked over at Marcus Cole, who had become Earth's symbol of strength. He had proved to Goroth, the galaxy's deadliest predator, that humanity was not to be underestimated, and now he had to prove it to the galaxy. Marcus stood tall, his resolve unwavering. "We fight or we die. That's the only choice we have. We've already proven that Earth can stand against anything. Let's show the galaxy that we can stand against everyone." The Terran fleet mobilized. Ships of all sizes, armed with weapons that the galaxy had never seen before, powered up and prepared for the coming battle. The time had come for humanity to defend its place in the stars. The final confrontation, the battle unfolded faster than anyone could have anticipated. The combined fleets of the Zarkar, Thraxi, and Varn came together like a tidal wave, engulfing the galaxy with their might. Their ships were massive, their weapons capable of destroying planets. But Earth's forces were ready. Marcus, leading the charge, stood at the helm of the HTS Vindicator, the flagship of Earth's fleet. His voice echoed through the command center as he gave the order to engage. All ships engage at will. The battle began in the deep void of space. Explosions rocked the galaxy. Plasma beams sliced through the darkness. Earth's fleet, smaller in numbers but superior in technology and strategy, darted between the massive enemy ships, attacking with precision. Gorath stood by Marcus's side, his presence a towering reminder of humanity's unexpected strength. Though the battle raged around them, Marcus felt a strange calm. It was as if the Predator's very presence reminded him of his own resolve. As the enemy fleets closed in on Earth, the Terran fleet did not falter. The secret weapon humanity had developed, a weapon capable of harnessing the energy of a collapsing star, was ready. It was their final trump card, the Ironheart system activated. A beam of pure energy erupted from the heart of Earth, cutting through space like a divine force. The Zarkar and Thraxi fleets, unprepared for the magnitude of the weapon, faltered as their ships were torn apart. The sheer force of the attack was enough to cripple their ability to continue the fight. But even as the enemy forces scattered, the Varn Dominion pushed forward. Their ships, larger and more technologically advanced, launched a final offensive against Earth's forces. It was a race against time. Would Earth's new weapon hold long enough to turn the tide? The turning point as the Varn flagship approached. Marcus realized that this was it, the final test. Humanity had to prove that it wasn't just about surviving. It was about choosing its destiny. The Varn flagship unleashed a devastating final strike, sending a wave of energy directly at Earth's flagship. But Marcus, channeling all the strength of humanity's resilience, made a daring decision. The Vindicator took the full brunt of the attack, activating its defensive systems at the last possible moment. The ship was rocked, but Earth's will to fight held steady. This is humanity's moment. We will not fall. Marcus's words echoed through the command center, and just as the Varn Dominion's flagship closed in for its final blow, the Ironheart system fired once more, this time directly at the Varn fleet's core. The blast was so powerful that it disintegrated the flagship in a flash, scattering the rest of the Varn ships. The battle was over. Humanity had survived, and for the first time in galactic history, Earth stood as the most powerful force in the universe. Humanity's ultimate victory. The silence that followed the final explosion of the Varn Dominion's flagship was deafening. The vastness of space felt impossibly quiet after the battle, but for humanity, it was the sweet sound of triumph. Marcus stood on the bridge of the HTS Vindicator, his heart still racing from the intensity of the battle. Around him, the crew worked quickly, making final checks and securing the ship's systems. The galaxy, once filled with fear of Earth's rise, now looked to the stars in awe and uncertainty. "We did it," General Monroe said quietly, standing beside Marcus. "We've pushed back the galaxy's strongest forces and claimed victory. But what now?" Marcus gazed out at the space beyond. It was calm again, but for how long? The galaxy was not a place of peace. It was a place of constant struggle. But Earth had proven that it could stand against anything. Humanity was no longer just a species trying to survive. It had become the most powerful force in the universe. "I don't know," Marcus replied. "But we're not done yet. The universe will always test us. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." Behind them, Goroth stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the command center. The Predator, once feared across the galaxy, had become an unlikely ally to humanity. His power, once used for destruction, was now a symbol of humanity's strength and resolve. "Human," Goroth said in his deep voice, "you have done what no species thought possible. You have faced destruction, chaos, and death, and emerged victorious. But this victory is only the beginning." Marcus turned to face the Predator. "What do you mean?" "The galaxy is vast," Goroth said, his glowing eyes narrowing. "There are many who still fear you, many who still seek to control you. You've shown them strength, but strength alone is not enough. You must show them your unity, your heart." It was a simple truth, but one Marcus had to confront. Earth had fought for its survival, but now it had to fight for its future. The greatest challenge ahead would not come from external forces, it would come from within. Unity, leadership, and purpose. Humanity had to prove it could wield its newfound power with wisdom. The aftermath of war, the days that followed, were filled with mixed emotions. The people of Earth celebrated, but the leaders knew the galaxy would never be the same. Messages of congratulations came from allies across the stars, but so did threats and warnings from those who had once ruled the galaxy. The Galactic Council convened once more, and this time Earth's representative Marcus stood before them. As an equal, not as a subordinate. This galaxy has been ruled by fear for far too long. Marcus said to the assembled leaders, his voice steady and strong. We are not the weakest species. We are not here to destroy or conquer. We are here to stand for something greater, unity, peace, and respect among all. But not all of the galaxy's leaders agreed. The Zarkar, the Thraxi, and even the remnants of the Dravik Empire still saw humanity as a threat to their dominance. They whispered in the shadows, plotting for the day when they could take back control. Marcus knew that this was the new battle. The fight for Earth's future would not be a war of weapons, would be a war of diplomacy, ideas, and alliances. But humanity had already proven its worth. We don't bow to anyone, Marcus said to the council. We've shown what we're capable of, and we will protect our future. Anyone who doubts us will face the consequences. Goroth, standing behind him, gave a rare smile. The predator who bows is no longer a predator. He is a protector. The rise of humanity's future as the years passed. Earth's role in the galaxy evolved. It became a beacon of hope for those who had been oppressed, a symbol of what could be achieved with resilience and unity. The galaxy watched as humanity led the way, not through brute force, but through understanding, negotiation, and strength. But even as peace began to take root, Marcus never let his guard down. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but Earth had earned its place, and humanity had become the force no one could ignore. As Marcus stood on the bridge of the Vindicator once more, looking out at the stars, he realized that the true victory had been in the choices they had made. Earth had become the most feared force in the galaxy, not because of their weapons, but because they had chosen to fight for something greater than themselves. Goroth stepped beside him, looking out at the same stars. You did it, Marcus. You gave me back my purpose, and for that ... I am grateful. Marcus smiled. We all have a purpose, even the deadliest predator. With that, the HTS Vindicator sailed into the unknown, not as a ship of war, but as a symbol of humanity's will to protect the future of the galaxy. Earth's legacy had just begun.